All right, we are back in open session. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll reopen the floor up if there's any questions or comments.
Can I tell you something I'm real pleased with? Sure. I think sometimes we just want to welcome back Elizabeth Lee.
How were we able to get her back during the middle of the year?
Now, I don't know, Ronnie County decided they
Good
would
to
do
have her.
that for us, and we
I
didn't
saw
argue.
that.
We didn't argue about it, we
No,
just took
come
her and
on.
ran with it, okay?
Welcome back, yes.
All right, very good. Okay, I have a motion. Any opposed? Any opposed?
I have some.
Thank you, Mr. Slockett. Coach?
I have a few more things than what my colleague here did, so I'll try to be brief as I can. Extracurricular meeting today, so I have a little bit to report on that. One thing that Mr. Hoag brought to us and we discussed, and Mr. Hoag, please chime in, as I may get some of this incorrect, and I want to make sure it's correct.
You're letting me talk?
Absolutely. But because of Hope Scholarship taking money, and Ms. Fridley, you as well, because you're a big part of the discussion, taking money from the public schools and putting it in a charter or homeschool, private school, wherever it may go, is that when those students can choose to come into our schools and participate. At one point, when they first started it, they stated they had to go into the school in the zone where they live. Now, with the new transfer rule that was developed, they can also make a one-time move. For example, if I live in the Oak Hill district, I can, at a homeschool, Hope Scholarship, I can choose to go to Midland Trail one time. So those are there anyway. But the reason for our main discussion was that we're looking at a fee structure that we're allowed by law to charge students who participate in our activities. In dealing with, we're going to look at a formula that we have a committee on the high school to middle school level trying to come up with a formula for the various sports as far as equipment, officials, feeding students on trips, and various expenses that a school has when it comes to their students involved in the extracurricular activities. In particular, we're talking about sports at this stage. So a lot of discussion today. We have a really good, solid committee that are all well extracurricular minded, that are working in this committee, in this group. So I think that they will come up with a really good structure for us to consider. What we've asked it, I say we because I'm not going to be on a committee, of course, so I'll sit on the board, we'll make a decision. But Mr. Hoag has talked to them about at a later work session, they will come in and share with this board what their recommendation will be, because anything that comes out of it must be approved by this board.
And we hope to have that done by, we hope to have fee schedules for the boards to look at it in terms of a policy format. I already talked to Anna about laying out whether we put it as an administrative guideline, probably makes
Or the other, yeah.
more sense, but the board to be aware of that administrative guideline and give approval of that administrative guideline before we do it. But that committee are going to be feeding back information over the next month, back and forth. Amy sending a form out in the morning to them, or this week in the next couple of days. And what we'll do is we'll pull that as a spreadsheet, so it'll break down each sport and why we're charging each amount. We don't want exorbitant fees. I think we talked about that
We don't
pretty
want anybody
openly.
off.
That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make sure that the public school has a fair advantage as we deal with extracurricular activities. And so that is the purpose behind it. So that's basically
What they're doing with the Hope, they're taking money that we normally operate from, and some of that is, of course, is used in extracurricular programs and so forth.
Right.
So it's only fair. Now they're being allowed to have it. How many counties are gonna do it, we don't know. It's the individual counties, as far as the counties determine what they wanna do. I, for one, as a board member in particular, think it's only fair to look at what we're doing. Now, you all might, I see you all, my colleagues here may disagree, and that's a discussion we'll have on that part. So, but we are working on that. Yes, sir.
Do we have any idea how many Hope Scholarship kids are participating in sports in Fayette County right now?
I think it was more, here's what my understanding was, that I was aware of, that maybe do you have a number that's different than, I had 3.
That, Hope and.
Not home, but homeschool,
Homeschool.
3 altogether.
Right, yes, sir.
Am I right with my number?
That's.
But that includes the private schools and the virtual schools.
Yeah, that's,
Well, virtual school students are from, public virtual school students are.
that are,
Are enrolled with us.
kids.
There are
I meant the virtual, charter virtual.
Public
that charter.
I don't.
We don't have
none that I'm-
anybody.
None that I'm aware of.
Yeah, my question too is Cynthia, and how are we gonna find these out? Unless they just tell us when they enroll, of course.
And you have to, honest to goodness, you have to be careful and you have to ask the questions, as was in the meeting today. I mean, you have to ask,
unusual, because it was the executive director of the SSAC, Dave Price. Dave would just call me about something else for a minute, and I told him, well, we're right in the middle of a meeting talking about fees. He goes, well, Serena and Darren are talking about fees down in Raleigh County, so I'm gonna reach out to Serena tomorrow and,
But
see
we're
where they're
gonna
at.
lead the way in this whole thing as far as that goes. But it'll be a few weeks, of course, but this board will be kept informed as we move forward, and we will have the committee come in to answer some questions that you may have.
And I think,
Good working committee.
we'll ask for your approval of an administrative guideline, which we normally don't do, because those sometimes are just guidelines.
Because they may complain about this. People
But,
may-
right, we want to give you something for your approval, because it's serious enough that we just don't want to just
Yeah.
hold you accountable for that
If
result.
we get complaints that come to us, and we want to make sure we've had.
You've seen it up front.
Mr. Ray, these fees will be to feed kids on trips, is that
Not-
what you're talking?
Well, not, no, to be honest with you, it's gonna be a fee that, to help cover costs, where they took the tax dollars from us, to help cover some costs that normally covered. And to the kids that are going to school, they didn't take that money from us,
Right, right.
so. But we'll have more answers, there will be more questions, but we gotta make sure we think this through carefully, so we don't have to keep changing it all the time.
Oh, it'll change in January.
Pardon?
It'll change again in January.
Oh, who knows what's gonna happen? And we may
Especially
we may not even be a board.
There's my
Just
crystal
like
ball opinion. right
legislature's talking about revisiting that 2820, and, will they revisit it? I mean, they're saying they are, but will they?
Who knows what's gonna happen? Energy drinks, as part of our agenda today, we had some discussion. That generated some concern. And the biggest thing that I heard today from our panel was education. Educating our students on the issues that go along with energy drinks. And I think that's what you discussed, and you discussed earlier, is trying to get an educational basic drink. So there was some pretty good discussion